One Cut of the Dead was released in Japan on the 4th of November 2017, and it did have amazing success. It's a Japanese comedy horror film, and the basic premise is nothing too remarkable. It's that there's a group of filmmakers shooting a zombie film, and then a zombie outbreak happens on the set. And that is the basic premise, and you may be wondering how a film with such a simple, and it seems like a premise you might have seen before, but when you actually go and watch the film, it is entirely original. The film shifts and twists itself in plot and in genre throughout the film, and if anybody is watching this who hasn't watched the film, I would strongly recommend just watching the film without knowing too much going in. I'll try and not spoil anything here, but yeah, especially just watch the film. Recommend the film in general. It's really good. One Cut of the Dead is an independent film, and it isn't backed by a massive studio. Even by Japan standards, it is a relatively small budget. It was made on 3 million yen, which does sound like a lot, but when you convert it, a lot of my audience is American, so I will be using American currency for the sake of this video, just for the sake of the audience understanding. So 3 million yen translates to about $25,000, and just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about Friday the 13th and how that was made on $550,000. And I was talking about how low budget that film was. So if you compare them, this film is made on almost nothing. Anyone who's seen the film can work out why. There are very few locations in the film, and there aren't too many special effects required apart from in the zombie makeup aspects, but they don't need to be perfect effects, as you will later realise during the film. The cast is made up of mostly unknown actors, although since the film has come out and it has had a massive success, they have become known for being in this film now, but before they came out, they weren't known for anything really. The director as well, he hadn't made anything big. This was his big film. It was slightly inspired by his short film Take 8, and yeah, it's not made by anyone well known before it was released. The film released to much praise, even though it only was shot on such a small budget of $25,000, and it actually only released on 2 screens. It wasn't a countrywide or even worldwide cinema release. It just opened on 2 screens, but it managed to make over 1,000 times its budget back. In its initial Japanese theatrical run, it made $27 million at the box office, and then when it released overseas, like it released in Fright Fest in the UK, it ended up rounding out to a total about $30 million, which is of course much higher than the 25,000 they put into making it. How did they achieve this success? I guess I could be very cliche in saying it's a great film, so of course it would make money, but there are a lot of great films that aren't well known at all. But that did help. There was a lot of word of mouth. The film wasn't even advertised at all. They just made the film because they wanted to. And I guess that passion shone through because people started talking about the film and they'd pass on the message. Yo, have you heard about this film? It's still even happening today. Like, I'm making this video to tell my audience about this film that made over 1,000 times its budget back. One thing that makes this film so special is that it opens with a 37-minute long take with no cuts in. And no, I'm not talking about slashers or Birdman or 1917 where it looks like there are no cuts. There are genuinely no cuts. The films I just mentioned, they hide the cuts in edits, often quite poorly, whereas One Cut of the Dead is a genuine long take. On the Blu-ray release, the limited edition Blu-ray by Third Window, who are a great distributor, so if you are interested in Asian films, definitely check them out. They released raw GoPro footage of the whole film being shot, of the whole one take being shot, and there's no cuts. There were even a couple moments when I watched it, I thought they could have hidden something there. There are moments where they could have hidden cuts, but they didn't. Like, there's a moment when the camera does go quite still, and they could have just sort of cut there, but no, they didn't. The reason they did have the slight break, you can see in the GoPro footage, is that they were giving the cameraman the camera operator a cup of water, because if you're running around as much as they do in this film, you're going to need water. The film itself does give a sort of different explanation, but from behind the scenes, it was a water break. The film does also benefit from having multiple layers. I won't go into detail about them in case somebody's watching this video without having seen the film. I really don't want to spoil it because it is a blast. It was so great going in and seeing the film without knowing anything about it. There's lots of shocking moments that are really funny, and yeah, it's a wild ride, so just watch it. The film does have multiple layers. It transcends multiple genres, so it can be played at something like Fright Fest, which is a horror film festival, and it also does have its comedy, so people who like comedy films, it is at its heart, even though it is a zombie film, it's at its heart a feel-good comedy, and also just general people who love filmmaking. There's plot points that say how great and how fun filmmaking is, and even ignoring that, the 37-minute long take at the start is marvelous. It's a great filmmaking moment, a great moment of filmmaking that they managed to pull it off. So there we go, that's another short and sweet story. It's about the time a Japanese film made over 1,000 times its budget back at the box office, and big props to the director, the whole team really, but especially the director, Shinichirô. I think he's a great director to be watching out for, in that he is doing these unique things, almost gimmick, but I think it is still worthwhile. They actually released a spin-off, I guess, sequel short film just this year, which is filmed entirely in lockdown. I believe it's called One Cut of the Dead Mission Remote, and it's all shot over, it's presented like a Zoom call, and they made this whole film in lockdown. They didn't go to anyone's houses or anything, and that again is another amazing filmmaking technique that is well worth applauding, as is the film itself.